The other day, I found myself playing the original Pac-Man game on a random Tuesday, which is perfectly normal. And as I sat there losing over and over again, I had a revelation. What if I turned this simple game that came out in the 80s into an analog nightmare? Everyone knows Pac-Man, the little dot that eats smaller dots and runs from ghosts. Well, what if Pac-Man stopped running and started chasing instead? Hunting you. Alright, so now we have a goal and can start by laying out our scope for this game. It's always a good idea to lay these things out before starting a project, so you know just how much time and effort each step will take. First up is building a random maze generator. Luckily, I already have a perfect prefab scene from a previous video. I just needed to change the colors up and make the walls a lot bigger. And now we can mark that off. Going smooth so far. Next step is to create the best and most terrifying 3D model I have ever made. And I didn't have high hopes. I booted up Blender and it was surprisingly horrible. It took me an entire hour to model this and it came out looking like a moldy lemon. I thought maybe I could save it by heavily pixelizing it with shaders, which did look better, but I knew I could improve a ton, so I just started over and spent about 3 more hours meticulously sculpting a new Pac-Man. This version came out 100 times better and I am definitely glad that I started over. Next up, I tackled AI tracking, which I have experienced from my previous video as well. And I tried to do a different version instead of just doing the nav mesh AI. But the nav mesh AI was definitely the way to go. I would have saved myself a lot of time. So next time I'll definitely just use that again. And now everything was working as it should. Not very scary yet though. Moving on, I wanted to make a creepy liminal arcade that was like almost nostalgic. So I got to work finding a bunch of assets to fill out the new room and finding a Pac-Man machine. I planned on starting in this room and then finding a Pac-Man machine, which is the only machine that was on. And if you interact with it, you get like sucked in, pause, and spawn into the maze. In order to pull this part off, I would need to get the lighting just right to give it the creepy vibe I'm going for. So I tried my hardest and I think it turned out okay. The textures could have been a little better though. And finally, I needed an animation to make you feel like you were actually getting sucked into the machine. So I wrote a script to lock your character controls and then move the camera world position into the machine. And it took a little tweaking to get it perfect, but it's starting to look good. And this is where it started to really come together and give that eerie feel I was going for. And now, the final step, make it scary, which is easier said than done. I added a VHS and a grain filter to the camera to tie it all together, and then made a few adjustments to the lighting and audio. And once we had that, it was just time for the final few steps. I added a script to the Pac-Man NPC that would create a bobbing animation to simulate his actual movement in game, as well as a distance to the player measure where your screen will shake for a bit before getting a game over if you're within a vicinity of the Pac-Man NPC. And now with all this complete, I needed to give the player a reason to play, so I added a high score tracker that simply times how long you've been alive. And then finally, a quick title screen and some final adjustments, and the game's finished.
Yeah, it's pretty loud. Hold up. At least we know this works. It's a good sign for the rest. Hopefully. Yeah, honestly, I think this is one of my favorite parts about this whole game. Like this room, this whole vibe just really captured that nostalgic feel. I love it. Also, go Bucks. Alright, and then you can hear this is the only machine that's on. Press E. Now we spawn in. And in the distance you can hear Pac-Man doing something around there. So it's honestly disorienting because you don't really know which way he's coming from or which way. Oh my god, that actually fucking scared me. Holy shit. Okay, I can. Dude, I'm not even joking. That actually got me. Holy shit. Okay. Let's try and beat my high score now. And if you guys figured out, I added a fly mode for when I was debugging stuff, and I left it in the game. So if you can figure out how to enable that, then honestly, you deserve it, because it's a really random key press. Maybe someone will figure it out. I don't know.
If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and check out my other videos for more content just like this.